We are witnessing something that is extremely crazy. This past week, rookie Isaac Guerendo was named the Offensive Rookie of the Week, and this is a pretty much impossible story. How on earth did Guerendo go from a guy who was very lightly recruited out of high school, being stuck at Wisconsin, and then literally not starting one single game at Louisville, and now all of a sudden is starting for an NFL team? Isaac Guerendo has always beat all the odds, and right now he could be on the verge of becoming one of the NFL's new young running back stars, and continues the trend of running backs who didn't do a lot in college becoming good in the league. In today's video, we're going to go through the crazy story and journey of Isaac Guerendo, how he went from an unheralded recruit and stuck at Wisconsin to now one of the new best rookie running backs in the league after never starting a game in college. But before we get started, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you want to support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now let's get started and talk about the insane rise of Isaac Guerendo. So, Isaac Guerendo's mother Jen realized that from an early age, Isaac was special. She remembers they were at a family gathering in a park in southern Indiana, in which the kids decided to have a big race. Isaac was apparently 5 or 6 at the time, and both the cousins he was racing were twice his age. She said, quote, "He blew past both of those boys, and my sister was like, what in the heck? Isaac was just so much faster than everyone else, even at that young of an age." So he ended up being born in Indianapolis, but grew up in the town of Avon, and besides speed, he was actually a childhood model. Isaac, for example, was on a billboard for a children's hospital, and was actually the face of the Boy Scouts of America's popcorn tins. Kinda crazy to think about. He was always fast, but eventually football would become a huge part of his life. He was always known for his speed, as he would eventually win state and regional titles in youth track while representing the Indiana Racing Cheetahs. He eventually attended Avon South Middle School, but then would transfer to Cascade High School for his freshman year, and this was when his mother would change jobs. He ended up playing 3 sports there, as he played football, basketball, and track, but for 2 years he struggled with ankle injuries, as he apparently broke his ankle playing kickball during gym class. The injury forced him to miss the remainder of the track season, and while he was at Cascade, he had 4 interceptions on defense. He ended up spending 2 years at Cascade before he would transfer back to Avon. Apparently, being at Cascade accelerated his football development because his mom said, quote, "He never came off the field." When he came back to Avon for his junior year, he would play alongside 4-star running back Samson James, future Indiana University defensive player Bryant Fitzgerald, and also at one point played with blue-chip quarterback Brandon Peters and second-round pick in the 2024 NFL Draft Blake Fisher, who went to Notre Dame. Even now, in the age of personal highlight videos, recruiting rankings, and a wide world of social media, there are players who slip through the cracks and come out of nowhere. At one point going into his junior season, Guerendo had yet to play a down for Avon's football team and had a broken ankle, and a year later, he was committed to Wisconsin. Why was that? He said, quote, "My name wasn't out there at all, until I had a big junior year." So yeah, as I said, he'd end up breaking out as a junior, as he had 596 receiving yards and 7 scoring touchdowns. He also became the state's most dangerous kick returner, and quote, "I believe he's grown leaps and bounds," his head coach said. "Every week last year you could see his progress, and he has some dynamic ability, and once he gains his confidence as a true receiver, I think he has a high ceiling." From there, his recruitment would start to take off, as he picked up offers from Ball State, Air Force, Army, and Eastern Michigan, but then his life would change at Notre Dame's Irish Invasion Camp. On June 10th of that season, Guerendo posted the best 40-yard dash time of anyone at the camp with a blistering 4.38 seconds 40-yard dash time. This would send his recruitment into hysteria, as he would quickly get a ton of attention. He had insane athleticism and eventually got an offer to play for Wisconsin. He'd visit there rather quickly, and then would become commit number 18 for them in their 2018 class. He said he was open to other schools, as Iowa was also recruiting him really hard, but he chose to stick it out with the Badgers and would eventually enroll there. As a senior, Guerendo got even better, as he apparently caught 54 passes for 1,258 yards and 16 touchdowns, plus 2 more on the ground and 1 as a kick return. He also had more history to chase, as he was looking to make Indiana track and field history, as he could have been the first guy in 105 years to win both sprints and long jump at the state meet, but it would not end up happening. As I said, he played wide receiver in high school, but apparently he was recruited by Wisconsin as an athlete, and they would kind of just figure it out once he got there. Wisconsin assistant coach said, quote, "He was out there playing wide receiver, running jet sweeps, and returning kickoffs. And then you're doing things like that, and the coach is thinking, we just need to get the ball in his hands." On film, Guerendo possessed game-breaking speed, and when he was in the open field, it was difficult for defenders to catch him. As I said, he ran a 4.38 40-yard dash time, and that really showed on the field, as he caught deep passes and outran opponents all the time. He was definitely an underrated get, as according to 24/7 Sports, Guerendo was a 3-star recruit, the number 133 wideout, and the 872nd best player in the class of 2018. So, how'd he do in Madison, Wisconsin? Let's take a look. But first, let's hear a word from today's sponsor, MyBookie. As convicted as I am about a certain bet, be sure to place your bet with MyBookie. This season, MyBookie is pulling out all the stops with incredible promotions like a weekly risk-free boost on Thursdays where you can bet without a sweat. If your bet hits, you win big. If it doesn't, forget it. MyBookie will refund your wager. But that's just the beginning. MyBookie is giving away hundreds of thousands in prizes with their Super Survivor and Square contests. Get your entries now in for your shot at huge cash rewards. When you're ready to get started, be sure to use my promo code Fisher50 and make sure to get some extra cash on top of your first deposit. If you type in Fisher50, you'll get up to $1,000 in a welcome bonus bet plus a $10 casino chip. MyBookie's tiered bonuses make it easy to deposit with crypto or with credit, and the bigger your deposit, the bigger your bonus. The bonus would be 100% match up to $1,000 plus a $10 casino chip. With MyBookie, you can bet on anything, anywhere, at any time, and make your season a winning season. Be sure to check out my link down below and use my promo code Fisher50. So when Isaac would arrive at Wisconsin, he would have to concentrate on football, as he was originally going to run track, but he would just decide to play football. He said when he first arrived there, he did not know how to play the running back position, but luckily he had a couple of players to help him. He said his teammate knew a thing or two about how to play running back, and his name was Jonathan Taylor. Taylor obviously helped him for 2 seasons and helped teach him how to play the position pretty much perfectly. He said, quote, "Not only was I making the transition to college, but making the transition to running back. Taylor was a guy who was willing to help out younger guys in that situation, and I think he saw it as an opportunity for him. If he could teach it to a younger guy, that could help him master it." As I said, unfortunately, Guerendo would spend his first 2 years of college buried on the depth chart. In the 2 total years he played with Taylor, Guerendo just had 13 carries. Unfortunately, injuries would also hurt him, as he'd have a hamstring injury in 2019 and 2020, and then a Linz-Frack injury in 2021. 2021 actually wouldn't be a terrible year for him, as he scored his first career touchdown against Eastern Michigan and also had 92 yards. He also had 56 yards in their game against number 19 Penn State, and then going into 2022, Guerendo would become a solid backup. This time he was behind Braylon Allen, and as a backup to both him and Malusi, he ended up rushing for 385 yards and 5 touchdowns, with his best performance coming against New Mexico State, as he had 74 yards and 2 touchdowns in that one, and then over 100 yards against Maryland and 72 yards against Purdue. He also had touchdowns in both of those games, but after the season was over, he felt he really needed to do something else. He would then make a decision to enter the transfer portal, as he said, quote, "It's something I talked over with my parents, and we came to that decision to leave. I really had one more year to showcase my ability, and being part of such a deep backfield at Wisconsin, I didn't feel like that was going to be the place I'd be able to do that. So where would he end up going? Well, he'd eventually choose the Louisville Cardinals. First-year head coach Jeff Brom was trying to bring in as many big-time players immediately for them, and he saw Isaac Guerendo as a future weapon. He decided to commit to the Cards for his final season of eligibility, and he'd become the primary backup to Jawar Jordan for the 2023 campaign. At first, Guerendo really wouldn't play that much, as he just played mop-up duty in the first few games, but he did have 63 yards and a touchdown against Murray State. Luckily for him, and unluckily for Jawar Jordan, he would get hurt, and over the last 7 games, Guerendo would go nuts. He had 2 touchdowns in their loss to Pitt, had 146 yards and 3 touchdowns in a win over Virginia Tech, had 94 yards and a touchdown against Virginia, 93 yards and a touchdown against Miami, and then 54 yards in a loss to Kentucky. While he was limited in their ACC championship game against Florida State, he would ultimately save his best for last. Against USC in the Holiday Bowl, Guerendo would carry the ball 23 times for 161 yards and 3 touchdowns, showing his absolute blazing speed. What's really interesting though, is that was the first time he started a game in the entirety of his career. The only reason he started it was because Jawar Jordan actually opted out of the bowl game. Honestly, it is kind of sad, as he was actually a really good player. Guerendo said, quote, "It was more of an overlooked type thing. I think there were always a lot of people put in front of me." Through the entirety of his college career, he just ran the ball 231 times for 1,392 yards and 17 touchdowns. That would happen in 37 games, and he would now be part of the 2024 NFL draft class. What's really interesting is that the NFL scouting combine is in Indianapolis, and he grew up just a half hour away. He'd attend the Colts Pro Day, And in front of 20 family members and friends at Lucas Oil, he ripped off the fastest 40 time of any running back in this year's class and tied for the 5th fastest mark in combine history. It was the fastest 40 time of any 220 plus pound running back since 2003 and the 5th fastest amongst running backs at the combine in history. He measured in at 6 foot and 221 pounds and also logged a 41.5 inch in the vertical jump as well as 10 foot 9 in the broad jump. His vertical led all running backs and was 5th overall, and his broad jump was 2nd behind Tennessee's Jalen Wright. One thing that also helped him out was that his usage was limited. We all know that nowadays running backs have a lot of wear and tear on them, and because Guerendo was always a backup, that was something he could use to his strength. He said, quote, "Never being a feature guy is something I like to use to my advantage. I might only have 250 career carries, but there's a lot of guys who have 400 to 600 career carries in front of me." According to NFL Mock Database, Guerendo was a projected 5th round pick and the 150th overall prospect, and he had a less than 1% chance of going in the 1st round. Eventually, he was selected with the 129th overall pick by the San Francisco 49ers, as their running backs coach saw a lot of potential and compared him to Raheem Mostert. What's also really ironic is that he was drafted 5 spots ahead of Braylon Allen and 2 rounds before Jawar Jordan. The 2 guys who were in front of him his entire career, he ended up passing. He believed that his background would serve him really well, as the 49ers already feature Christian McCaffrey, Elijah Mitchell, and Jordan Mason. It hasn't been all great though for him so far. It's been a rough offseason for 49ers rookies, as their 1st round pick, Ricky Pearsall, pulled his hamstring, and then a couple weeks ago, Guerendo pulled his hamstring on the first day of training camp. He'll need an MRI to assess the damage apparently, and this is not ideal for him. When Guerendo injured his hamstring, he was apparently running between the tackles and tripped on someone's feet. He fell and limped off the field, and we're not trying to blame him for the injury, but this was not the first time he apparently tripped on a running play, and of all the backs on the team, he apparently had the worst vision. But his limited amount of carries, his blazing speed, and his ability to catch passes out of the backfield will probably give him many opportunities, and his opportunity has finally come over the last couple of weeks. After barely playing the first couple of weeks, Guerendo would get his first action in Week 3 against the Rams, running the ball 5 times for 19 yards. He had a setback in Week 4 as he had his first career fumble on his one and only carry, but over the last month, Guerendo has started to figure things out. He ran the ball for 22 yards in Week 5 against Arizona, and then in Week 6, he ended up getting a larger role, running the ball 10 times for 99 yards with a 9.9 yards per carry average. This was sort of Guerendo's breakout moment, but then flash forward to this past weekend, and Guerendo went on fire. In a win over the Dallas Cowboys, Guerendo ended up becoming the bell cow back, running the ball 14 times for 85 yards and his first career NFL touchdown. Guerendo's blazing speed and his vision have helped him a lot so far, and because of all these injuries, all of a sudden Guerendo's a popular name on the waiver wire and someone that everyone's trying to keep an eye on. With still nearly half the season to go, Guerendo could have the opportunity to become one of the feature backs on the team and at minimum establish himself as running back number 2 for them. It's been quite the season for San Francisco at the running back spot with Jordan Mason, Christian McCaffrey, and now Guerendo, but honestly maybe the hype's a little bit too much right now, but I just wanted an opportunity to share his story. How on earth did Guerendo go from a guy who was very lightly recruited out of high school, being stuck at Wisconsin, and then literally not starting one single game at Louisville, and now all of a sudden is starting for an NFL team? To me, that's absolutely crazy, but it's definitely well earned and good for him. But what do you guys think? If you're a 49ers fan, what do you think of Isaac Guerendo? And who's another NFL rookie who has a nearly impossible story like him? Be sure to let me know down below, leave a like if you support today's video, subscribe if you're new, and check out some of the videos on the end screen. I hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.